And our first observation is that Iran is so fortunate. Oh yes, so fortunate. Our Prophet, Allah's blessings be upon him, had a companion who was Iranian. And his name was Salman radiallahu ta'ala anhu. And he is known as Salman Farsi or Farisi because he belonged to the Iranian nation, and or to the Iranian people rather than nation. And the Prophet ﷺ one day, he remarked about Salman. He said about his people, he said that if wisdom were located up there in the stars, his people will reach up to the stars to locate wisdom. And so this is a great compliment. This is a great, great compliment that Nabi Muhammad ﷺ gave to the Iranian people, the Farsi-speaking people, their wisdom. And this is today manifested in the kind and the quality of the caliber of leadership that Iran has in the person of what is known as the Rahbar, or the supreme leader of Iran, Ayatollah Sayyid Ali Khamenei. Ayatollah Sayyid Ali Khamenei. This is a man of great wisdom, a mature political thinker, a religious thinker, and a man of wisdom. And so Iran approaches the Great War with a wise leader. And that is a plus. That is something that Iran will benefit from. Iran, as a consequence, already has a very sensible and intelligent foreign policy. It is one in which it is clear, the profile of Iran is as clear and plain as daylight, that it stands in resolute opposition to the oppressors of the world, led by Washington. One could only wish that other parts of the world of Islam could have the insight, the foresight, the clarity of vision that Iran has, to recognize the Western world to be an oppressor, and Washington to be the leader of the oppressors. And it was the founder of the modern state, the revolution in Iran, Ayatollah Ruhollah Khomeini, who pointed his finger with matchless courage, pointed his finger to Washington and declared, this is Shaitanul Kabir, the great Satan. And he was absolutely correct. But the others don't have the kind of courage and integrity that Ayatollah Khomeini had. And so Iran has a profile that is plain and clear as daylight. Iran is not sitting on any fence. And not only does Iran have this profile of resistance to the oppressor, but Iran for a long time now has recognized a friend. I remember my next door neighbor, Venezuela, and Hugo Chavez in Venezuela, with much less courage, stood up to resist the Yankee oppressor. And he paid the price for it, as the president of Tanzania paid the price. And when he died, Hugo Chavez died, the only leader from the world of Islam who was there for that funeral of Hugo Chavez, a giant, a hero of a man who stood up to resist the oppressor. And when the Palestinians, when Gaza was being destroyed, it was Hugo Chavez who expelled the Israeli ambassador. And when Hugo Chavez died, only Iran sent her president. Mahmoud Ahmadinejad to attend the funeral of Hugo Chavez. Nobody else cared for Hugo Chavez except Iran. And when Mahmoud Ahmadinejad went to the funeral, the old woman, the mother of Hugo Chavez, came to him. And she was crying and she reached out to him. And guess what he did? Guess what Mahmoud Ahmadinejad did? If he listens to this video, I think he will be very happy to hear. Mahmoud Ahmadinejad put his arms around the old woman and hugged her in public. This is the wisdom of the Iranian leadership. When you have men like Sayyid Ali Khamenei, and you have men like Mahmoud Ahmadinejad, then a country has great leaders. And so Iran is preparing with great wisdom for the Great War, consistently in its foreign policy. And so now we turn to how Iran is now preparing for the Great War. Iran has Afghanistan and Pakistan as neighbors on one side, but it has Turkey as a neighbor on the other side. And Turkey is a member state of NATO. And so we send a message of warning to the Iranian leadership, if it is necessary, because they're already so skilled as diplomats and so wise, the wisdom that the Prophet spoke about. They don't even need my advice. But both Pakistan and Iran are in danger in consequence of Turkey's continued membership in NATO, because NATO is going to be waging war. Iran is on the right side of that war. Iran is in alliance with Russia, and Russia will win that war that is coming, the Great War. It is Turkey's membership in NATO which creates a problem both for Iran and for Pakistan. And it is time for the Iranian people. I don't think the Iranian government will do it. They may think it is diplomatically improper for them to address Turkey and say to Turkey, get out of NATO. The Pakistani government may consider it to be diplomatically impossible to tell Turkey, get out of NATO. So it is the Pakistani people and the Iranian people who have to do what the governments find difficult to do. And that is to raise their voices as loudly as they can at this time, calling on Turkey, the Turkish people, to tell your government, get out of NATO and do it quickly. And telling the Turkish people, if your government does not get out of Turkey, if your government does not get out of NATO, then Turkey, please stay away from us, you're a danger to us. This is how the Iranian people and the Pakistani people should prepare for the Great War which is coming. This is by far the most important issue that Iran has to face in the war which is coming.